Insecurity and lack of a healthy self-esteem are major poisons that destroy extensive amounts of human creativity, happiness and productivity. These key components are formed very early on in life, and the fallout of the either positive or negative input we received affects our lives for years to come until we do something practical to change it. The good news for those of us who detect negative consequences at work in our lives is that these effects can be changed. I would like to draw from a couple of key quotes, and then we can discover the medicine they contain and advise some practical applications to dress our wounds. I was reading a great book recently that I highly recommend by Roger Fritz called The Power of a Positive Attitude. He made an interesting statement that I'd like to quote. He said, "Caring for yourself is not selfish. You can't show you care for others unless you care for yourself." Jesus, many thousands of years ago, made a similar statement. He said, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. You shall love your neighbor as yourself." Matthew 22, verse 37 to 39. If we zero in on Jesus' statement, Jesus said, we should love our neighbor as ourselves. I have found that the parts about loving God and loving our neighbor tend to get all the attention because as human beings we feel uncomfortable about facing head-on our need to love ourselves. This is why I think Roger hits the nail on the head when he tells us, care for yourself is not selfish. You cannot care for others unless you care for yourself. And I think this really is the issue. A low self-esteem enables us to direct supposed love in all other directions, but our false humility eschews all attention from ourselves. Now, I say supposed love because the truth is, without a real love for ourselves, we can't truly love others. And this, I believe, is the main point in the text. So how on a practical level do we love ourselves? The word for love that is used is a translation from the Greek language, which is a rich language which isn't limited to one word when it seeks to define love. The original Greek word that is used here is agape. This word is a word that defines a very practical type of love. It's the love that we are encouraged to have towards God and others, and it essentially is a verb which means that we are to do love, i.e. we make a conscious decision to love and even discipline ourselves to love and to perform the duties that this love requires in order to maintain the love. So here we are. The point is, how do we apply this type of love to ourselves? Let's look at 4 practical things we can do to agape love ourselves. First of all, accept yourself. You were fearfully and wonderfully made. You were formed individually by the hand of the Master. Your value is intrinsically wrapped up in your very humanity and existence. There's nothing more required to add value to you, but unless you believe this at a core level, the way you live your life is unlikely to reflect this. Comparison is a dangerous trait that often inflames low self-esteem and makes us unable to see the value of our individual contribution. At this stage, we must not concern ourselves with others' views of us. We have to deeply consider our own personal perspective of ourselves and develop a healthy self-image. Until we do this, others' perceptions, positive or negative, will always dominate. Next, we need to learn to forgive ourselves. We may seek forgiveness from God, or we may seek forgiveness from a fellow human being, but oftentimes we neglect to turn around and forgive ourselves. We have all done things we regret, but the past cannot be changed. In order to best prepare ourselves for the future, we must cultivate healthy emotions. This is often easier said than done. A key component in loving and accepting ourselves is forgiving ourselves. It's extremely liberating to look in the mirror and tell yourself you forgive yourself, and then let it go. Don't ponder it any longer. Forgive others, recognize the flawed nature of humanity, and then release them from your personal judgment. This will help your mind develop the habit of forgiveness and enable you to also forgive yourself. Invest in yourself. To agape love ourselves means to invest in ourselves. If you recognize your intrinsic value, you'll recognize your need to be the best you that you can be. Not from a comparative perspective or an inferiority perspective, which ultimately will be demotivating, but from a sincere love for yourself. If we'll invest in ourselves, our value to humanity will greatly be enhanced. Look at the lives of people like Nelson Mandela. Despite imprisonment and very negative appearing circumstances, he read and studied extensively, and this ultimately developed and sustained him and prepared him to be the great leader he is. In John Maxwell's book, Think for a Change, he says, the books you read and the people you meet over the next 5 years will determine who you'll be in the next 5 years. So invest in your relationships, invest in your academic development, and invest in your health. You are truly worth it. Do it because you're worth it, and you'll find this a tremendous motivator. And then bless yourself. To bless yourself is the opposite of self-harming. I'm not talking about indulging ourselves, which may be as bad as self-harming, but I'm saying recognize that it's healthy to enjoy life, to have varied interests, to socialize with companions, to foster and invest in our marriages and our families. This will deeply bless us. If we are a martyr-type personality, often we'll go around doing 1,000,001 things for everyone else. That can be fine if it's done from a healthy perspective and balanced with satisfactory you time. Different people invariably bless themselves in different ways. My wife laughs at me when I go to make myself special something from the kitchen. I'll get the best plate and knife and fork and make it look like something prepared for a photo from a recipe book. It keeps me going. I must admit, blessing myself is a big one for me. And if we balance it with healthy self-love and love for others, we'll find we'll live exceedingly productive and fulfilled lives.